This is the story of a cunning and deceitful man who, without paying a single penny, would stay in the world's most luxurious hotels and walk out with goods worth millions. A Colombian con man named Johan Batten Court, who was considered one of the smartest and most clever fraudsters in the world. In the last 10 years, with his intelligence and cunning, he had earned more than £1 million. But his real art was not just stealing, it was taking control of people's minds and trust. He would win people's confidence without raising suspicion, and by the time they realized they had been deceived, he was already gone. While people were enjoying luxury and comfort in the world's grandest 5-star hotels, Johan Batten Court quietly set his traps. Batten Court was a name known for fooling hotel staff and rich guests. He would enter empty-handed, but when he walked out he carried thousands or even millions in cash, credit cards, expensive jewelry, and passports. He wasn't just a con artist, he was an escape artist too, with dozens of fake identities under different names. He was so clever and calculated that even when he was sent to jail, he tricked everyone by pretending to have a dentist appointment and simply walked out the front door as if he were a VIP guest, not a prisoner. Was it cunning or an art? Did people knowingly fall into his trap? This is the story of a man who, despite being one of the world's biggest con men, could still make people admire him. So let's begin today's story. But before we start, we request you to please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and if you enjoy the video, don't forget to like and comment. Let's begin. In the last 10 years, Batten Court had targeted the world's richest hotels. His victims were wealthy guests staying there. His method was simple, but brilliantly clever. First, he would build a connection with the hotel staff. He would spend time in the hotel cafe or lobby, sometimes exchanging money so people would believe he was a genuine guest. When hotel employees saw him repeatedly, they began to think of him as one of their own. Most fraudsters prefer to remain unnoticed, but Batten Court was the opposite. He befriended the hotel staff so that he would no longer appear as a stranger but as a familiar face. Once the staff trusted him, he would move on to the real target. He listened carefully to guests' conversations, especially in the hotel bar or reception area. When people mentioned their room numbers, Batten Court memorized. His most brilliant trick was standing in the breakfast line, where guests often confirmed their names and room numbers. Whenever a rich person revealed their details, Batten Court marked them as his next target. Now that Johan Batten Court had gained the staff's trust and gathered the names and room numbers of wealthy guests, it was time for the final and most dangerous step, getting the room key and executing the theft. When he was sure the real guest was not in the room, he would approach the reception. The staff already knew him, so Batten Court confidently said, "Oh, I lost my room key. Could I please get a new one?" Since the staff recognized him and guest satisfaction was always a hotel's top priority, they handed him a new key without any doubt. Even the atmosphere of 5-star hotels was ideal for such scammers, because everything there revolves around ensuring that guests face no inconvenience. In many luxury hotels, it's common for an elite guest to ask for something and have it fulfilled without question. Batten Court took full advantage of this mindset. "Yes sir, no problem sir, right away sir," was all he needed to hear for his plan to succeed every time. Now, with the room key in hand, Batten Court would calmly enter the guest's room, making sure no one was inside. Then the real game began. He searched every cupboard, drawer, and bedside table, collecting expensive watches, jewelry, cash, and ID cards. Then he turned to the room safe, where the most valuable belongings were usually kept. Here came his smartest move. Instead of calling the reception, he directly called hotel security. "Hello, my safe isn't opening. I think I left my passport inside," he said smoothly. The security guard wasn't suspicious because Batten Court was already in the room. Dressed in expensive clothes, wearing a stylish watch and looking every bit like a wealthy guest, he raised no alarm. In such luxury hotels, guests forgetting passports was nothing unusual. The guard opened the safe without question, and Batten Court collected everything inside. No breaking in, no force, no fake documents. The hotel's security believed they were simply helping a genuine guest. But in reality, Batten Court had just walked away with goods worth thousands of pounds. His scam was so perfect that no one could ever catch him red-handed. Over 10 years, he stole goods worth more than £1 million, over 1 crore rupees, targeting the most luxurious hotels in the world. No hotel could gather concrete evidence against him. He was so charming, so cunning, and so methodical, that every hotel staff member truly believed he was a real guest. According to those who have studied Batten Court's life, he was born in 1976 in a small Colombian town called Royal Danila. He lived in a mud hut, his mother was a cleaner, and his father worked as a laborer in the fields. Whether true or not, the story is fascinating and mysterious. How could a boy raised in poverty become so skilled at deceiving five-star hotels? His mother said he faced cruelty very early in life. His father left them when he was just 1 month old. His mother remarried, but in the new house, he felt helpless and unwanted. Often, people who lack love and affection in childhood go to any lengths to prove themselves. They don't just want success, they want it on their own terms. Batten Court, too, achieved success in his own way. From the slums of Colombia, he rose to outsmart the world's richest hotels. But the thought remains, if he had used his imagination, energy, and intelligence on a legal path, he could have reached great heights. As a teenager, after a family dispute, he ran away from home. It is said that after leaving, he lived at Colombia's Cali airport with other street children, inside an old abandoned airplane, surviving by collecting food from garbage bins. Interestingly, airplanes and airports later played an important role in Batten Court's life. In 1993, when he was just 17 years old, he first caught the world's attention, and his entrance was truly shocking. The incident took place on June. At Miami Airport in the United States, a distressed and disheveled boy was seen wandering. It was said that he had arrived hidden in a Colombian aircraft, but not in the cargo area. He claimed that he had hidden himself inside the plane's landing gear. Now the question arises, was this sensational story true, or had Batten Court just played the first move of his international con career? The aircraft had flown at 3,500 feet, where the temperature could drop to 4 degrees Celsius. Aviation medical experts say that surviving such a journey is almost impossible, but airport staff members claimed they saw him falling from the landing gear of the plane. It was reported that he lay slowly. He regained consciousness and began to tremble. The risk he took to leave Colombia shows that he wanted to run away under any circumstances. His sole aim was to build a new life for himself at any cost. Batten Court adopted the false identity of Guillermo Rosales and spun an intriguing story for the media about how he escaped poverty and cheated death. He claimed he was only 13 years old, whereas in reality he was 7. He also said he was an orphan and had hidden in the landing gear just before the aircraft took off. He said the memories of his dead parents gave him the courage to endure that terrible journey. The story of this alleged 13-year-old boy became sensational in the media. People sympathized with him after hearing his tale of courage and struggle. He was placed under the care of a Miami police officer and his wife. But even while staying there, he stole jewelry, tools, and a bicycle, and ran away. Not only that, people had raised $75,000 in funding to help this orphaned boy, but he disappeared with that money too. Soon, Colombian authorities exposed the lie. They revealed that the boy was not a 13-year-old orphan, but 17-year-old Johan Batten Court. His parents were alive, and he had a criminal record in Colombia. In 1994, he was deported from Miami. But in 1995, he was caught attempting to re-enter the United States, and was deported again. That short American visit taught him a lot. Those experiences laid the foundation for his later con career. By the late 1990s, young Batten Court had perfected his hotel scams. Whenever he targeted a luxury hotel, he was never caught. He used dozens of fake identities, which made it hard for police to track him. Whenever he was arrested, he did not stay in jail long. In 1998, London police arrested a man they believed to be Gonzalo Separ Wills. He had been linked to a string of thefts at several exclusive hotels in London. But despite the charges, after being granted bail, he absconded and eluded the police. For a year, there was no trace of him. Then in 1999, a man was arrested in Britain. He was caught at Heathrow Airport for using a credit card stolen in Japan. His false identity was believed, and he was released after paying only a £400 fine. He left the court and disappeared again. His strategy of committing crimes under different names in different countries proved effective. It became difficult for the police to connect his offenses, and he repeatedly got away. At that time, police technology was not very advanced, so his real identity did not come to light. At the end of the 1990s, the London Metropolitan Police did not have an automatic fingerprint identification system. Exploiting this, Batten Court avoided detection under his real name. Whenever he was arrested, his fingerprints were not matched with older cases. Had that system existed then, the police would have immediately understood he was an international fraudster. 2 years after his arrest at Heathrow, in May 2001, Batten Court returned to London. This time he targeted even bigger hotels. He stayed comfortably in luxury hotels in Mayfair, Knightsbridge, and Park Lane and carried out thefts worth hundreds of thousands before leaving. From one hotel he stole £4,000 worth of jewelry and cash, while from another he stole The real thrill for him was walking into a hotel empty-handed and walking out with thousands of pounds. Perhaps that gave him a sense of his own ability, as if he was smarter and sharper than the rich. For him it was not just theft, but a way to show he was no less than any. Before leaving London, Batten Court stole an American Access card from one hotel, and after paying £4,000, rented a soft-driven Bentley. With that car he reached the airport and booked a flight to Paris. He bought £4,000 of jewelry and designer clothes at the airport, and then, as always, vanished with his illegal earnings. By 2003, Batten Court had again managed to enter America without suspicion. This time he targeted Los Angeles's most famous casinos and hotels, Las Vegas. In 2003 he executed one of the biggest heists in 2 exclusive hotels on the Las Vegas Strip. He stole more than £200,000 in cash and jewelry. Pulling off such thefts required not only courage, but immense self-confidence. Each time he had to enter the hotel as if he belonged there. He had to use his body language and conversation to prove he was one of the wealthy guests. Perhaps that was what excited him the most. His style evoked a Hollywood film called Ocean's 11. Las Vegas police reported that Batten Court stole Rolex watches from hotel rooms valued up to. Interestingly, he would give these watches to hotel waiters as tips. It seemed as though he considered himself a modern Robin Hood, stealing from the rich to give to others. Sometimes he claimed to be the son of a politician. Other times claimed to be a Colombian prince. This contradiction was intriguing. On one hand, he wanted to be part of the high-flying luxury lifestyle, and on the other he wanted to con the very wealthy class as if they deserved it. In November 2004, Batten Court returned to London, and as usual targeted hotels in Knightsbridge and Park Lane. This time he stole £36,000 from a businessman. The Metropolitan Police suspected Batten Court was responsible, but they believed he was still in Las Vegas, or Russia. Then everything changed on December. A police officer recognized him walking down the street, immediately pursued him, and caught him. At the time of arrest, Batten Court was wearing a leather jacket, worth £2,000, that he had stolen from a Park Lane hotel. On his wrist was a £8,000 watch that turned out to be stolen. This time he had no new name to hide behind. Police found many fake identity documents where he was staying, including a Russian passport, and a Spanish passport bearing the name David Iglesia, which had been stolen from Canary Island. In addition, police recovered thousands of pounds in currencies from several countries, plus the clothes and jewelry he had stolen from the Dorchester Hotel. Batten Court admitted to his crimes in 2001 and 2000. By any measure, these were large sums, but for a man who had come from an extremely modest background, it was like experiencing a royal life. In 2005, at age 29, young Batten Court was sentenced to 3 years. However, in reality, he spent very little time in prison. He was sent from England to Stanford Prison, which was a low-security facility. Only 2 months into his sentence, he told a prison officer that he had to visit the dentist. In open prisons, it was common to allow inmates to go out for such appointment. In April 2005, Batten Court was sent out for a dental appointment. The shocking thing was that he did go to the dentist, but he did not return to the prison. He just walked away. By 2005, Batten Court had become one of the world's most notorious conmen. He traveled from country to country, conning people at luxury hotels. The law had caught him for frauds committed in London's 5-star hotels. But only 3 months into his sentence, he escaped from prison. No one knew where he would go next. What was certain was that wherever he went, there would surely be another fancy 5-star hotel. He was close to 30 years old and had no qualifications for anything else. He never stayed in one place for long, a lone wanderer. If all of this were not unethical, it would be a tragic story. 10 days after escaping from prison, Batten Court reached Dublin, the capital of Ireland. In Dublin he used one of his many false names. This time he was calling himself Alejandro Quinn, a 25-year-old Spanish national. But after leaving prison he had to modify his old methods a little and take a riskier step. On the morning of June 16, 2005 at 9:30 a.m., Batten Court entered a 5-star hotel in Dublin. This time he was not dressed in expensive clothes, but in ordinary jeans and a t-shirt that read "Save Water, Drink Beer." Usually he wore designer clothes, but he had left prison only 10 days earlier and was in desperate need of money. So he did what he did best. He used his cunning and confidence. As soon as he entered the hotel, he headed straight toward the corridor and lift area to appear like a guest. At 10:15, Batten Court went directly to the top floor of the hotel, where he met a cleaning staff member who was coming out after cleaning the most expensive suite. An American family was staying there, a couple, their child, and the grandmother who had come from Bel Air Hills, Los Angeles. Batten Court immediately decided they would be his next target, but this ploy was very risky. He relied entirely on his charming conversation and craft. He told the cleaner that he was the guest's brother, and that he was staying in the same suite. He then claimed that he had left his key inside the room and could not enter. He asked the cleaner to open the room, but this time his plan failed. The cleaner politely refused, saying, "I'm sorry, but I can't open anyone's room without permission. You must go to reception. They will give you a new key." Batten Court's quick improvisation did not work, yet he kept his composure. He spoke so politely and acted in such a way that the cleaner had no suspicion. Speaking with the cleaner, he obtained a very important piece of information. The American family had booked a babysitter for the night, who was staying in the same suite. Now he had a new pretext to deceive the hotel staff. He proceeded straight to the hotel reception. This was his riskiest move. He began speaking in broken English, and then suddenly asked, "Do you speak French?" Fortunately, the receptionist knew French. Now Batten Court advanced his plan. Speaking in French, he casually said, "I have lost my room key. Could you please replace?" His confidence was so overwhelming that the receptionist had no suspicion. She programmed a brand new keycard and handed it to Batten Court. As he was taking the keycard, he naturally asked, "By the way, is the babysitter arrangement all right?" This was the masterstroke. The receptionist had received information that morning about the babysitter booking, so she had no doubt and took him for a VIP guest. Now Batten Court had the key to the hotel's most expensive suite. He then used his tried and tested method. He confirmed the room was empty. Once inside, he thoroughly searched the entire room for valuable items. Then he called the hotel operator and played a new trick. He said, "My children have accidentally changed the locker code. I can't open it now. Can someone come and help me?" The operator, without suspicion, sent a hotel security officer. The security guard arrived and met Batten Court. He had a device that could open a locker in a minute. While this was happening, Batten Court kept talking to the guard to create the impression he was truly the guest booked for that suite. The first locker was opened. The guard saw some cash and some passports inside. Batten Court then asked, "Can you open the locker in the other room as well?" "My children always do this wherever we stay." The guard had no suspicion and opened the second locker too. Now Batten Court had the opportunity to take open loot. He removed an American passport, an American Express card, a valuable ruby ring, and £2,000 in cash from the locker. Then he changed the pins on both lockers to his own so that by the time the theft was discovered, he would be far away from the hotel. In just 75 minutes, he stole £2,000 in cash, credit cards, jewelry, and a passport from the hotel, and then quietly walked out. As soon as he left the hotel, he went straight to Grafton Street, the most expensive and famous shopping zone in Dublin. Using the American Express card, he bought many expensive items. His first purchase was from a record store, where he spent $500 on CDs and DVDs. After that, he began shopping for expensive clothes, and then went to Dublin's most luxurious jewelry shop, where he bought a Rolex watch worth $16,000. Within just 1 hour of leaving the hotel, he had blown away £2,000. Meanwhile, the hotel had no clue about what had happened. The American family he had robbed found out the next day, when they were packing for checkout. When they tried to open the locker and it didn't open, they contacted the hotel authorities. The security guard told them that the locker had already been opened a day earlier. The family was stunned. When the locker was opened again, there was nothing left inside. When the family realized their valuables had been stolen, they immediately called the police. For police officer Brian McLean, The most important thing was to gather as much information as possible, and as quickly as possible. When McLean checked the hotel's CCTV footage, he spotted the man the security guard had reported as suspicious, the same man who had asked for the locker to be opened. Slowly, the full story of June 16, 2005 began to come together. The problem now was that no one knew who this clever thief was, or where he had disappeared. But the credit card he had stolen turned out to be extremely useful for the police. McLean contacted American Express and obtained all the transaction details of purchases made with that card. Then he personally visited each shop where the card had been used. There were two reasons for doing this. First, to check the CCTV footage of where he was shopping, and second, to collect the bills he had signed. Those signed bills could provide his fingerprint. While the police were checking all this, McLean returned to the same hotel where the theft had occurred to question the staff more thoroughly. During that visit, he stumbled upon a major clue. That morning, while McLean was standing in the hotel lobby waiting for the security manager, out of boredom he picked up a British newspaper, the UK Times, lying nearby. His eyes caught a headline on one page about a flamboyant, stylish thief who had escaped from a UK prison. Just then the security officer arrived. McLean immediately showed him the newspaper and asked, "Is this the same man?" The officer instantly replied, "Yes, that's him." Now the police finally knew who they were looking for. His name was Johan Batten Court. The newspaper also mentioned that London's Metropolitan Police had dealt with this man before. This was the first solid lead the Dublin police had found. McLean was sure Batten Court had already fled the country, but when he contacted the London police, the answer was shocking. The London police said he was still in Dublin, and might strike again soon. Hearing this, McLean immediately alerted all the major hotels in Dublin. Everyone acknowledged the warning, but most of them laughed it off, saying nothing like that could happen in our hotel. And that very carelessness was Batten Court's greatest weapon. He knew people always thought, that could never happen to us. But McLean was convinced Batten Court would not be hiding in an expensive hotel. He would surely be staying in a cheap hotel or guest house, somewhere no one asked too many questions. Now McLean put his experience to work. He printed flyers with Batten Court's photo and distributed them throughout Dublin, in hotels, hostels, and the staff everywhere were asked just one question: has this man stayed here? If yes, inform us immediately. McLean's suspicion turned out to be completely right. Shortly afterward, he received a call from a nearby hostel. "The man you're looking for is staying here." At that time, McLean was a bit far from the area, so he immediately called the nearest police station and instructed them to send 2 officers to the hostel. Exactly 1 week after Batten Court had committed the theft at a major hotel in Dublin, the police caught him red-handed. When he was arrested, he was wearing the same Rolex watch he had bought a week earlier, using the stolen American Express card. He also had an American passport that actually belonged to a tourist whose belongings had been stolen from the same hotel. He had altered the passport so professionally, replacing the photo with his own, that it looked completely genuine. This made it clear that his next plan was to flee to America. Years earlier, Batten Court had referred to America as the land of opportunity, so it was certain that this time too that was his destination. But the police already knew his real identity. Still, Batten Court did not give up his cunning. With complete confidence, he tried to convince Brian McLean that his real name was Alejandro. He gave his date of birth, said he was from Spain, and even rolled up his sleeve to show a tattoo of the Spanish flag on his arm to make it look convincing. McLean later said, "If I hadn't already known the truth, even I might have believed him." Now all that was needed was official confirmation. After his arrest, like every prisoner, his fingerprints and photograph were taken. But in this case, McLean specifically sent his fingerprints to the London Metropolitan Police through Interpol to confirm his true identity. After some time, Interpol's response arrived. Yes, this is the same man. Now Brian McLean was fully convinced that the person sitting in front of him was indeed the extremely shrewd and cunning conman, Johan Batten Court was very calm, so much so that anyone seeing him might think he was a simple shy man. He answered every question politely, and even admitted that he had committed the theft. But in reality, it was all an act, Deep inside, Batten believed he was fooling the police. He was sure he would soon get bail and escape again. What he didn't know was that the police had already planned everything. During interrogation, McLean deliberately didn't reveal that they already knew his real identity. Batten cooperated fully, and like many conmen, he considered himself smarter than everyone else. Often in trying to show off their cleverness, such criminals end up confessing everything themselves. Batten was so used to hiding his identity that he was completely confident the police would never find out who he truly was. He thought if he confessed to the crime under his fake name Alejandro Quinn and behaved well, the court would grant him bail and he would walk free. But he had no idea that the police already knew he was actually Johan Batten Court. Now Batten had no way to escape. In the final interrogation, McLean looked him straight in the eyes and said, "Now I know who you are. I know you are Johan Batten and I also know that you are from Colombia." Hearing this, Battencourt's face fell completely. In a cold voice he said only one line, "I will not say anything more to you." After that he didn't utter a single word, not during interrogation, nor after. When he was presented in the Dublin court, the details of his arrest were explained. But surprisingly, Battencourt did not file any application for bail. The following year, he confessed to his crime in court and was sentenced to 2 years in prison. But since he had already spent some time in jail, he was released in December 2000. Surprisingly, Britain did not attempt to bring him back, even though that was the country from which he had escaped prison in 2000. In fact, Battencourt had been arrested in Paris back in 2001 when he had tricked hotel staff to get room keys. But when he was released from Dublin prison in 2006, he disappeared once again. For 3 years there was no trace of him. Then, in September 2009, Battencourt resurfaced. This time he was seen in Vermont, America. He claimed he had accidentally crossed the Canadian border, but in reality, he was trying to sneak into the United States, the same America where he had committed his first fraud in night. The American police immediately arrested him. Battencourt always called America the land of opportunities, but this time he had come there not to con anyone, but to go to jail. On June 9, 2010, he pleaded guilty to illegally entering the United States. He now faced up to 10 years in prison. Battencourt's cons were not limited to America. He was wanted in Canada, Colombia, Japan, Mexico, Russia, and Thailand as well. It now seemed that for many years ahead, he would have only one room, a prison cell. He was not just a con man, he was a mystery. His smartness, graceful manner, and cunning nature set him apart from others. The 33-year-old Battencourt had become an enigma. The journey that began in Miami in 1993 ended in an American prison. He had no permanent identity, no fixed address, just a wandering man who, wherever he went, left behind stories. If you found this story interesting, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay connected for more such true stories. Thank you.